Welcome to Tiki Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Here at Magic Kingdom, Imagineers have carefully planned every single aspect of the park experience. There's so much detail to take in, but if you're just rushing to that next lightning lane, you'll miss a lot. Some of it is even stuff that's happening subconsciously. From hidden details in Cinderella Castle to secret design tricks in Adventureland, or even some optical illusions used on Main Street. There's a lot you may have never noticed. So let's explore the park and count down 7 hidden secrets and design illusions at Magic Kingdom. Number 7. There's one building in particular here on Main Street, USA that's set up a little different than the others. So many of you probably know that Imagineers used forced perspective when designing the buildings on Main Street. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book that makes them appear much taller than they actually are. It's such a convincing illusion. The ground floors are built at full scale, then as you move up, every story slightly decreases in height and the windows get smaller. That's how a 2-story building appears like it's 3 stories tall. But the one building on Main Street that doesn't follow these rules is the Town Square Theater. Yeah, it's actually built at full scale and everything is true to size. So why was the exception made for this building? Well, it comes down to the sightlines. When you walk under the train station and step into Town Square, Imagineers wanted your entire view to be framed by the buildings on Main Street. Although from the 2nd floor of the train station you can see Tomorrowland, they didn't want you to get any glimpses of the outside world from ground level, especially the Contemporary Resort. It sits just beyond the park's berm, and the Main Street Theater acts as sort of an architectural curtain to hide it. If the Town Square Theater had been scaled down like the rest of Main Street, you'd actually be able to spot parts of the Contemporary peeking above the rooftops. Just imagine if the theater was the same height as Tony's restaurant. This would break the illusion that you've traveled back to the turn of the century, so Imagineers gave it that extra height to block the hotel. Another building that acts as an architectural curtain is the train station. This full-scale structure blocks out everything from this side of the outside world, whether it's the monorails or the Seven Seas Lagoon. It also serves double duty from the front, where it blocks the rest of the park from the entrance. It allows you to truly get that grand reveal once you pass under the train station. So next time you're walking past the Town Square Theater, notice how much larger it is compared to the rest of the buildings on Main Street. Number 6. Fantasyland is separated into 3 different sections. There's Storybook Circus, the Enchanted Forest, and then the original area of Fantasyland where the attractions are themed to a Renaissance fair. Well, the reason they chose a Renaissance fair of all things was because of Disneyland and budget constraints. See, Walt Disney's original vision for Fantasyland at Disneyland was a quaint European storybook village. In 1983, all of Fantasyland was reimagined into what we have today, but as Disneyland's opening day approached in 1955, the project was running behind schedule and was over budget. Because of this, plans for Walt's elaborate European village had to be scaled back and simplified. The solution was to extend the castle walls to cover the show buildings and install colorful tents in front of the dark ride entrances. They added some banners, flags, and shields, and it gave the impression that a Renaissance fair was being held in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle. When Imagineers were designing Walt Disney World in the late 60s, many aspects of Disneyland were incorporated into Magic Kingdom in Florida. This included modeling Fantasyland after Disneyland's Renaissance Fair, although elements of Walt's vision for a European village also made it into the park. Imagineers even modeled many of the Fantasyland rides after Disneyland, which included a canopy-free Mad Tea Party. That worked in California, but here in Florida, the constant rain caused a lot of downtime, so by 1973, Magic Kingdom added the canopy. Even when Princess Fairy Tale Hall replaced Snow White's Scary Adventures, Imagineers made sure the facade still followed that Renaissance fair theme. Fantasyland has seen many changes over the years, but today, all the 1971 attraction facades have retained a lot of their original designs, just with updated colors. A fun detail Imagineers included in this Renaissance design can be found at It's a Small World. These pillars around the exit were designed to resemble jousting lances, which would have been used during the Renaissance period. You wouldn't even think they're anything other than a regular pillar, but it's always a fun detail to point out. Number 5. Have you ever noticed that Main Street feels a lot more grand and almost stretched out when you first enter the park, but then when you leave, it feels a lot shorter? Well, it all comes down to the way Imagineers designed the space to trick our minds. Main Street was always designed to function as the opening credits of a film, so Imagineers slowly ease us in one storefront at a time. When you first step into Town Square, your view is carefully framed, but as you move up Main Street, the buildings and sightlines towards Cinderella Castle all work together to make the street feel longer and more grand. Main Street rises slightly by about 6 feet, so this subtle walk uphill towards the castle creates that feeling of depth. Cinderella Castle is always the visual anchor that keeps pulling you forward, and the forced perspective used on the castle also makes it feel a lot further away. Then as you approach the end of the street, you'll notice the awnings of the buildings get closer to the edge of the sidewalk. This all works together with the forced perspective on the buildings to help sell the illusion that the street is much longer. Then on your way out, it does the reverse. The flagpole and the train station are now the focal point, but the scale of the building is much smaller than Cinderella Castle. It looks and feels closer, and the gradual walk downhill makes the street feel shorter. Psychologically, you're also not taking in details the same way. At the end of your day, you're usually just hyper-focused on leaving, whereas the start, you're generally soaking in more of the details. The design of Main Street is one of the smartest examples of how our minds are tricked as soon as we enter Magic Kingdom. Number 4. When it came to designing Disneyland, Walt Disney loved using what he called weenies. These were big visual icons that pulled guests forward and invited them deeper into a land. As we just discussed, Cinderella Castle is the most obvious weenie, but other examples at Magic Kingdom are Astro Orbiter in Tomorrowland and even Big Thunder Mountain in Frontierland. These icons grab your attention and draw you straight into the land. But if you look at Adventureland, something feels very different. Unlike the other lands, Adventureland doesn't really have that one big visual icon that pulls you in. It's a bunch of smaller weenies, but this was completely intentional. Adventureland was designed to feel more mysterious and less predictable than the rest of the park. You'll notice Imagineers used winding walkways, layered facades, and a lot of dense greenery. This helps to manipulate the sightlines so you never really see the entire land all at once. As you move through Adventureland, the winding walkways slowly reveal parts of the land with every corner that you turn. You'll notice that all the attractions feature some sort of marquee or building that still pulls you in, but they're not the same scale as the other weenies in the park. For Pirates of the Caribbean, the clock tower is the visual anchor, only if you follow it directly, it just leads you to the side of the building. Now, what a lot of people forget is that this side used to be one of the original entrances to the ride. Visually, I think the design of the clock tower makes so much more sense as an entrance compared to where it is today. What do you think? To be fair though, this weenie only really works if you're walking through the land from Main Street. You really don't see it when you're walking in from Frontierland, but at that point, you need to walk by the entrance anyway to make your way through the land. Number 3. Just up the way at the Enchanted Tiki Room, there's an interesting design detail on the roofline that many people seem to overlook. So sitting on top of the building, there are some carved animal figures that are actually meant to read as two completely different animals. From up close in Adventureland, the figures are designed to read as Asian water buffalo. Now you might be thinking, since it's the Enchanted Tiki room, why didn't they use an abstract carving of a bird or another Tiki figure? Well, the water buffalo was chosen because of how close the attraction is to Frontierland. Imagineers knew you'd be able to see the water buffalo from Frontierland, which is why from a distance, they're meant to read more like longhorn cattle. It would have been a typical animal found during the American frontier. They even match the look and feel of the exterior of Grizzly Hall, including similarities in the roofline design. Another fun detail on the Tiki Room roof is that 0 straw was used. In reality, it's all made from little pieces of metal. It's much more resilient than real straw, but like the water buffalo, it also serves double duty as a giant lightning rod. I mean, you never know when lightning might strike. Number 2. It might be surprising for some people to learn that you can actually walk right through Cinderella Castle. To be fair, it is closed frequently during the day for the castle stage show and also at night for the fireworks. But hidden inside the passageway is what I'd consider one of the most overlooked details in the castle. You're gonna want to make a point to walk through because along the walls, you'll find 300,000 pieces of Italian glass. With over 500 different colors, the glass is fused with sterling silver and 14-karat gold, making up 5 giant mosaic murals to tell the story of Cinderella. It took over 18 months to design and install these mosaics, and when you're up close, you see just how intricate they are. Many of the pieces were hand-cut, and some of them are as small as the head of a tack. Each panel takes you through a different part of the film. From Cinderella with Lady Tremaine and the stepsisters, to her meeting the fairy godmother, right into the famous ballroom scene, then Cinderella trying on the glass slipper, and finally, her and Prince Charming riding off into their happily ever after. Honestly, the closer you look at these mosaics, the more impressive it becomes. Then while you're going from scene to scene, pay attention to the pillars in the archway. Each was sculpted to include Cinderella's mice and bird friends, so even the architecture around you continues the fairy tale. Another fun little secret is that there's a tribute to 2 Imagineers in the mosaic. In the scene where Cinderella is trying on the glass slipper, Herb Ryman is the one on the ground presenting the slipper, and then John Hench is looking down at him. Both were Disney animators and Imagineers who helped design Cinderella Castle. Herb Ryman drew the first sketch, and then John Hench was responsible for designing the final version of what we see today. He was the one who got it built, and he also worked as a colorist on Cinderella in 1950. Including them both in the mosaic is a perfect way to pay tribute to all their work and contributions to the Disney theme parks and Disney animation. Number 1. Liberty Square is a quaint colonial-themed land that's pretty authentic to the times. Imagineers included tons of detail, but a lot of it is very subtle. First, there's the architecture. As you walk around, you might notice numbers on the doors. Well, if you add an 18 to the front of it, the number represents the year and style that architecture was used and seen. So the architecture of these 2 buildings would have been seen in 1824 and 1826. Now, some of the buildings in Liberty Square are intentionally less polished, but a common detail you can find with all of them are the window shutters. You'll notice most of them are slanted, and that's actually done on purpose. During the Revolutionary War, people donated any metal they had so it could be made into ammunition. One place they got this metal from were their shutter hinges, so they would replace them with leather straps. Now, for safety purposes, the ones in the park are metal, but because shutters were constantly opened and closed back then, it wasn't uncommon for the leather to wear and sag over time. It would then result in these slanted, sagging shutters. The historical accuracy in the land even goes right down to the ground. One of the most famous Liberty Square details is the brown winding strip that runs through the center of the pavement. I've mentioned it before, but it isn't just decorative theming. It's actually meant to represent the old gutter systems that would have run through colonial streets. Back in the 1700s and 1800s, cities didn't have the modern plumbing systems we have today, so wastewater was often dumped onto the streets from their windows. So yeah, Walking on the brown strip in Liberty Square is essentially you walking on human feces, which is always fun. So, what's your favorite hidden secret or design detail at Magic Kingdom? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.